speaking of public humiliation that I'm enjoying, Nikki Haley in Nevada managed to lose to none of the above. She's now given an interview explaining her cope of what exactly happened here and trying to justify her continued existence in this race. Let's take a listen.
Does that situation in Nevada hurt a little bit?
No, I mean, Nevada, it's such a scam. They were supposed to have a primary. Trump rigged it so that the GOP chairman, who's been indicted, would go and create a caucus. We knew months ago that we weren't going to spend a day or a dollar in Nevada because it wasn't worth it. And so we didn't even count Nevada. That wasn't anything we were looking at. We knew that was rigged from the start. Our focus is on South Carolina, Michigan, Super Tuesday. So if you look what we did in Iowa and you look what we did in New Hampshire, we're continuing to grow. That's what matters, I think, more than anything else. But look at what happened this week. Here you have Republicans lost a major vote on the border. Republicans lost a major vote on Israel. Donald Trump was found that he will not have immunity in all of these court cases coming up. The RNC chair is fired. All of this chaos is happening around us, and Donald Trump's fingerprints are on every bit of it. We can't continue as the Republican Party to go forward with this chaos. You don't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos, and that's why we've got to see a change.
So it was rigged. Is that what she's saying? I'm pretty sure she's saying it was rigged.
I love the part, though, my favorite part of that is when she's like, we weren't even counting Nevada. Like, you
yes,
get to pick and choose.
Were. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but like, you're not the one that gets to decide which states count and which states don't. So the fact that you weren't counting Nevada doesn't really count for much. I mean, listen, she is right. There was like a weird thing that happened with Nevada that I don't totally understand that led to there being a primary and a caucus, and that's why Trump's name wasn't on the ballot here, whatever. But if you are basically the only current candidate who is on the ballot and you're getting destroyed by none of the above, it's like, it shows you where the Republican Party is.
Yes.
And so it is hard for me to understand her justification for staying in the race at this point. Let's go ahead and listen to Steve Kornacki on the night of this Nevada situation explaining what exactly was going down, because this is kind of funny. Take a listen.
Haley, without Trump's name even on the ballot, still loses to the none option by better than 2-1. So that is a tough reality for her. Trump isn't even on the ballot, and she loses, and it's a closed primary. So it really reinforces what we've been seeing, that when you're just talking about Republican voters, she's really getting clobbered with Republican voters. It's independents and Democrats that keep her in it.
I love the way he's like, he's really in trouble.
Really
it's like,
clobbered.
yeah, we know, Steve. We agree.
So, you know, after, I don't remember if it was before New Hampshire, I think it was before New Hampshire, I was saying, you know, there's a chance that even though this ends up just being a long humiliation for her, that she stays in on the possibility with like the donor class backing her, under the possibility that some black swan event occurs and takes Trump out of the race, even though if that did happen, I'm not even sure how that would go down, if that would leave her as the heir apparent or what would happen in that scenario. I guess it depends on the timing of when said black swan event were to occur. And I think at this point, that's the only real justification for her candidacy is like, you know, maybe something crazy happens, because if you are losing to none of the above and Republicans in every contest are clearly with the other guy, in spite of the fact that, you know, polls do show she would destroy Joe Biden. You know, I don't think there's any doubt if you're just looking at electability, you are taking a risk with Trump that you're not taking with Nikki Haley. But people are convinced Trump can win. I think there's a good chance Trump can win. And they haven't been given a reason to move off the guy that they still really love.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I mean, when you've got, the other thing is that, sure, but general elections don't happen in a vacuum. You have to win a primary, at least in the current system. I don't necessarily love it, but it is what it is. Let's put this up there on the screen. I mean, just look at this. In terms of the overall vote total, 63.2%, 2/3 of the people who took time out of their day came to check none of them. 30.5% for Nikki Haley. Okay, 43,893 American citizens took time out of their day to march their ass to the polling poll just to check none of the above, specifically to say screw you to Nikki Haley. And they outnumbered them 2-1 to the people who actually thought that they were going to go vote for her. I mean, how the hell are you supposed to compete with this? It's just literally impossible. It also, you know, bringing back to what we were talking about in our A block, Krystal, about the demise of the Republican establishment, for her to be defending the RNC and the collapse of that as some sort of sign of chaos. Look, let's put this up there on the screen. Somebody sent me this yesterday, and I've gone through and verified this through Red State, which was the original publisher. Look at RNC versus DNC spending. Top line, the RNC spent $128 million versus the DNC spent $156 million. But when you break down what they were spending money on, it is shocking. The RNC spent $70,000 on floral arrangements. The DNC spent $795. The RNC spent $263,000 on a limousine service. The DNC spent $7,000. It's like, what, lady? You never heard of Uber? Uber Black's not good enough for you? What is going on over here? I mean, the fact is that you can see so clearly that they were squandering their budget to a historic degree. Even in that management consulting line, look at that. $1 million on management consulting.
That's by far the most shameful line.
I totally agree.
Far worse than the flowers or the limousines or whatever. Management consulting.
Floral's pretty bad.
Is shameful.
Yeah, $1 million on management consulting. The DNC spent $114,000. Office supplies, they're spending $300,000 on office supplies. The DNC is spending What are they buying? Are they buying Vision Pros? You know, like, what's happening here? Are you buying the G2 pens and not the Target
high-level office supplies?
Yeah, it's like, what are you people doing?
The other thing you note there is the things that Democrats outspent them on were like voter outreach, like GOTV texting. But I mean, yes to all of that, but I also think it's such cope to think that the problems of the Republican Party are like the line items of spending at the RNC. I know you agree with me, but I just want to like put that out there because I'm just remembering Vivek at that debate that was like, oh, the reason we're losing is because of Rana and the RNC. And I think that's preposterous. Like, obviously the overall political dynamics are backlash against Trump, backlash against extremism, and backlash against the Dobbs decision overturning Roe versus Wade. I mean, those are the big pieces. So in that way, Nikki Haley is right that, like, you know, in terms of Republican electoral prospects, they would be much better off if they move past Donald Trump. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, the reason that they underperformed in the midterm elections, the reason that they're losing like every special election that comes up, the reason that they've definitely lost every single ballot initiative that has anything to do with abortion rights, those things are not about the RNC. They do stem sort of directly from Donald Trump or the Supreme Court justices that he put on the bench. So that is the big picture. But yeah, I mean, this is an embarrassing profligate spending on all of the wrong things at the RNC as well, on top of everything.
Right. I mean, more what I'm saying is that these people are morally bankrupt and just not deserving of any sort of reverence, like within the Republican Party, which is part of why, like, it's one of those where you're right. Look, is it the RNC's fault they're losing? No. But at the same time, you can't be blowing people's money on floral arrangements and on limousine services. It's shocking. And I'll put a modest defense in here. RNC and DNC, yeah, they don't matter at a macro level. But, you know, at a micro level, they can matter. They can, you know, 10,000 votes, people who are canvassing, having the right software, and all that stuff. Again, it is not determinative. Like, it is not the major thing that matters. But people do give money, and they allegedly are supposed to exist for a certain reason. And you shouldn't be spending that on floor arrangements and on
the thing
limos.
They primarily exist for at this point is just to, like, control the process and make sure that, you know, the powers that be get their way, that, you know, Joe Biden doesn't have to debate and he gets the lineup of states that he wants, and that the process is completely controlled. And on the RNC side, the same thing. I mean, they actually had much more of a democratic process than the Democrats did, but there's also no doubt that there was a lot of fealty from Ronna McDaniel to Donald Trump. You know, he gave her his blessing. She was allowed to stay in there so long as he felt that she served his purpose, and apparently that reign is coming to an end. Put this up on the screen. Ronna looks like she is leaving after some criticism from Trump. She plans to step down. Donald Trump likely to back a supporter of his false claims of election fraud, Michael Whatley, the head of the North Carolina GOP. There's a quote in here from someone, you know, some insider who said, Mr. Trump likes Mr. Whatley for one overwhelming reason, according to people who have discussed him with the former president. Quote, he is a stop the steal guy, as one of the people described him. You also have some, it is, you know, not a guarantee that this dude will get it, even though this is Donald Trump's pick, but I think it's very, very likely. But there could be internal dissent, and it's not like Trump can just tap him on the head and appoint him. There does have to be some internal process. So we'll see how that plays out. I also thought this was amusing. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, has lobbied publicly to remove Ms. Daniels, suggesting last week in an interview that some Trump family members, including Lara Trump, former president's daughter-in-law, could be potential picks for party leadership posts as well. So they're looking at staffing up the party with direct Trump relatives.
To be honest, it would be logically consistent. If the whole party's going to be about Trump, then you might as well just put a Trump person in.
True.
Right? I mean,
if it's going to be a cult of personality, like just get the loyalists in there and make it clear as day.
Right. Let's just put the last name Trump and put, his...
Make Don Jr. the VP pick.
It is what it is. It's what I don't support it, but I'm just like that. Clearly, that's what Republican voters
reality.
want. I was once in the Trump hotel when Don Jr. walked in, and it was literally like being in 100 years ago when a Habsburg prince must have walked into like a Vienna hotel.
God.
It was crazy. I mean, I watched people, grown men in Carhartt jackets, lose their minds over the son of the president. And I was like, do you think Chelsea Clinton is getting greeted like this anywhere? She probably could walk into the Ritz-Carlton or whatever in New York and people are like, they'll give it an acknowledgement, but they're not.
Well, she had
There's
her
no
time
cult of personality.
back in the heyday of like the Clinton Global Initiative and
That's a
stuff.
good point.
When she would walk into that room, I'm sure she was treated with, fawning admiration.
What about,
back when she was being hired by NBC News. Remember that?
What about Sasha Obama, right? Like, I once walked past Sasha Obama on the street in Georgetown. You would never have known it if it wasn't for the fact that a Secret Service guy was right behind her. It's just different, in terms of the way that the parties are. Anyway.
It's a sick country we live in.
It's a crazy country.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.